Many of us humans struggle with an overwhelming feeling of disillusionment with one's life and society at large. We feel as though we are nothing but puppets being strung along at the will of the system or some higher entity in which we are ignorant to. We feel as though we have no control over our lives, and that in the words of Freddie Mercury, nothing really matters. If you are currently dealing with this internal dilemma, chances are that you are in desperate need for self-transformation. And in Friedrich Nietzsche's book titled Thus Spoke Zarathustra, he provides a framework for achieving just that. In the book, he introduces a concept called the Übermensch, which is German for overman or superman. An Übermensch is one who has transcended the bondage of the human condition and has achieved a liberated state, one of free play and creativity. This state is characterized by reaching a point of pure individual, uninfluenced and unbothered by the ways of society, leaving one free to dance to the tune of their own life. Sounds pretty great, doesn't it? Well, before you can reach that point, Nietzsche outlines 3 spiritual metamorphoses that you must overcome in order to transform into your own personal version of an Übermensch. But before we get into that, don't forget to like and subscribe to help my channel grow. I definitely need the help. Okay, with that being said, let's continue. The first metaphorical character mentioned in the book is the spirit. The spirit is rather invisible and unremarkable. It represents humans who live life passively, never take risks, and fear discomfort. The spirit is reminiscent of a sheep and is sadly resigned to never achieving much beyond the status quo and survival. The spirit must reject this existence and confront the challenges of the world if the goal is to transform, which leads to the first metamorphosis, the camel. Quote, "What is difficult?" asks the spirit that would bear much and kneels down like a camel wanting to be well loaded. "What is most difficult, O heroes, that I may take it upon myself and exult in my strength?" End quote. In this part of the book, the spirit transforms into a camel, which makes sense symbolically because camels are capable of carrying lots of weight and surviving long journeys through the desert. Nietzsche proceeds to list many of life's most difficult trials and experiences and indicates that the camel must invite these burdens. What Nietzsche is saying is that in order to become an Übermensch, you must confront reality and all of the pain that comes along with it. You must confront death, suffering, confusion, thirst for knowledge, boredom, hard work, and all other dilemmas that manifest in the human experience. The camel does not run from life or distract himself from it. Instead, the camel embraces it out of a sense of duty. It purges its soul with the fires of existence so that it may emerge with increased strength and resilience. But the issue with becoming a camel is that you eventually enter what is called the loneliest desert, which is essentially an existential crisis. The camel is forced to confront the fact that there may be no universal truth or absolute purpose in life. It's at this point that it has 2 options: commit suicide or move on to the next metamorphosis, which is that of the lion. The spirit must transform into a lion because in order to leave the loneliest desert, it must confront the great dragon. Quote, "Here the spirit becomes a lion who would conquer his freedom and be master in his own desert. Here he seeks out his last master. He wants to fight him and his last god. For ultimate victory, he wants to fight with the great dragon. Who is the great dragon whom the spirit will no longer call Lord and God? Thou shalt is the name of the great dragon." End quote. The spirit is a slave to the great dragon because it represents everything imposed upon oneself from external entities such as society, government, churches, family, the education system, propaganda, etc. Hence why the dragon's name is Thou shalt, a command. The challenges that the spirit faced as a camel has allowed it to transform into a lion, which represents courage, rebellion, tenacity, and rage. It is in this form that the spirit is able to deliver the sacred no, which is symbolic for the blatant rejection of all external pressure and traditional values. The statement kills the dragon, in which he has been a slave to, thus leaving the spirit responsible for creating his own values and direction in life, solely based on his individuality. It's not that the lion considers all external entities to be evil and corrupt. The issue is that they infringe on the spirit's ability to be a true individual, and an Übermensch is the absolute individual. Pursuing and achieving goals which are predicated based on what you want out of life is behavior that characterizes the spiritual state of the lion. Once the spirit has achieved freedom from the influences of the world by becoming a lion, he now has to forget his past and move on to a new beginning. He must now transform into a child. Quote, "But say, my brothers, what can the child do that even the lion cannot do? Why must the praying lion still become a child? The child is innocence and forgetting, a new beginning, a game, a self-propelled wheel, a first movement, a sacred yes. For the game of creation, my brothers, a sacred yes is needed. The spirit now wills his own will, and he who has been lost to the world now conquers his own world." End quote. The spirit has dealt with much pain and stress during the course of its transformations, but now it must cleanse its mind of the past and move forward into a new era. It must deliver the sacred yes, and therefore live in the moment, accept uncertainty, and flow gracefully in the flux of life. In the state of the child, life is no longer a constant battle against external forces or a struggle to solidify one's identity. Instead, he lives life in a perpetual state of play and joyful creation. In Nietzsche's opinion, this is the only state in which one can create their own reality. By overcoming this vital metamorphosis, the spirit overcomes itself, achieves liberation, conquers its world, and thus becomes what Nietzsche calls an Übermensch. The way I see it, this is not a straight path, but instead a cycle. We all start off as children, but when we grow up, some of us might notice that we must symbolically become a camel in order to sustain our imposed identity within society. It's at this point that we may enter into a period of great stress and crisis. And to overcome this, you must become a lion by rejecting subsequent external forces and begin to create your own pathway in life. You must cease to worry about such dilemmas and revert to a state of play and creation, and therefore become a child again. It's only in this state of liberation that you are able to become the ultimate and best version of yourself, a literal Superman or Superwoman. But my friends, that's it for this week's video. As always, I hope you enjoyed it and added the knowledge to your own philosophical lexicon. Stay tuned and I'll catch you on the next one. Oh yeah, and don't forget to subscribe.